Hey friends, I just finished watching Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, and I have some things that I need to say. And with that, this is going to be a video kind of about my personal politics and the politics around which I was raised. And I do need to preface all of this by saying I went to high school in Oklahoma. I graduated in Oklahoma. I took required Oklahoma history in ninth grade. And do you know what we didn't talk about? The Osage murders of Killers of the Flower Moon, or the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. Neither of those in our required Oklahoma history curriculum. So there's that. So my dad growing up, I was raised in a military family. So like that typically skews kind of conservative, right? My dad growing up self-described as libertarian. And when I became of voting age, I also described myself as such. I had a subscription to a news magazine called National Review. And I read that like the gospel. When I look back, I realize that so many of the things that I found so interesting about that magazine were the cherry-picked anecdotes about one example where unions were bad, or one specific example of why global warming isn't real. And those narratives were what structured my wider worldview, just kind of in terms of, well, I've seen one anecdote about why this isn't a thing, and therefore, believe you me, looking back at who I was then and like how obstinate I was to hearing different points of view, or how I just like had to find a way to argue them out of the water. Spencer has been leftist the whole time. He's been with me the whole time. I still do not understand how he put up with myself that whole while. So with that forward, I went and saw Killers of the Flower Moon tonight, and I will say it felt overly long. And I would say one of the major criticisms that I have with it, and I'm not a film major, but our main character is Leo DiCaprio's character, and he is such a bland nothing of a person. Like he's an idiot. Like he's very stupid, which means that like he gets swayed in whatever direction the wind blows, but like it's not a character trait of his. He's just blithely evil. And it's not compelling in my mind. Like it's not like, oh, look at how easily someone with zero character can be swayed to do evil. It's just like, bro, like your evil is boring. So we have this nothing character as our driver. And as someone who read the book and has been on part of like community discussion boards about the book here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and as someone who went to high school in Oklahoma and never learned about any of this in Oklahoma history classes, I'm like, Scorsese, come on. Like there's more valuable historic context to be contained in this movie. There are more bits and pieces that you could be like fleshing out the storyline with, rather than just like a long pause where we like stare at the fire or something. Like a prime example of this is we watch this movie, we see the storyline happen, and we get some context at the end that like, oh, character dies, and her headstone never mentions that like her entire family was murdered as part of this like plot. But like it's not, in my mind, as someone who has read the book and went through Oklahoma history class and was then appalled to find all of this on the page, there's not like a, yo, no one talked about this. It was just, everything was put under the rug. Boop. If we just ignore that this ever happened, then we never have to talk about it. Exactly the same way with Greenwood, the Black Wall Street in 1921, a community of 10,000 people that had churches and a movie theater and grocery stores and was burned to the ground. If we just pretend like it never happened, no one will ever ask any questions. And then I don't know how many times I can say that I took Oklahoma history class and did not learn any. With that further context, I was reading reviews of Killers of the Flower Moon, the movie, tonight, and came across one from the National Review magazine where the author ignored or didn't know, was blithely ignorant of the entire context of the article. It was basically just like, Well, Scorsese sure is just doing the white guilt trip this time around. Oh no, we need to feel so bad for being white. Oh no, look what we did to the poor Osage people. And I'm like, yes, yes, that was, all of that was bad, but the complicity, and then at one point it even says, like, it's not like the media didn't cover it. Again, Oklahoma history class! This was never covered. And I have another, like, fucking go off on white guilt, where I'm like, I don't feel guilty because I am not complicit. I feel sad. I feel frustrated. I feel empathetic towards the people who suffered. I don't feel any guilt because nothing about me would make that same thing happen again. What about you, bro? In conclusion, here's to looking back at ourselves and realizing how much we've grown, and working really hard to continue to grow and to continue to make the world a better place, no matter how freaking cringy you were.